The curse of the false prophet. It all began with an unassuming sign. Prophet Lawrence, foretelling the future. The shop looked abandoned, but rumors about it spread like wildfire. People said every prophecy Lawrence made came true, but no one knew at what cost. In the dim light of candles, he whispered his prophecies, unaware that he would soon fall victim to them himself. Lawrence was no seer. His prophecies were nothing but tricks. But everything changed the day an old woman dressed in black walked in. She placed a rusty ancient coin on the table. "Tell me, Lawrence," she whispered in a voice that sent chills down his spine. "What do you see?" Lawrence smirked and began inventing. "You will find peace. But first you will lose everything." The woman stared into his eyes, and for a moment he felt an icy void engulf him. "You are a fraud," she hissed. "Let your words become your fate." She disappeared, as if melting into thin air. At first, Lawrence thought it was a mere prank, but the next day, a client he had promised wealth visited him. That night, she died. Her body was found on a bridge, her eyes gouged out. In her pocket was a note. "Fate takes back what you promised." Panic gripped Lawrence. He tried to dismiss it, but every new prophecy began to come true. He predicted illness, and his client was consumed by a fever that ate away at his body. He foretold someone's death by fire, and that very night the man's house was engulfed in flames. With each passing day, the fear grew stronger, but the worst began when he started hearing the old woman's voice in his dreams. "Haram, haram, 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 haram. You have deceived fate," the voices whispered. "Now it will claim you." Lawrence began noticing changes in his reflection. It smiled when he was serious and stared back at him with eyes filled with hatred. Ghostly writings appeared on the walls of his home. "You're next. Pay your debt." He stopped sleeping. At night he heard the scraping of nails on the floor, quiet footsteps behind him. One day he found the same coin the woman had left on his doorstep, now covered in fresh blood. One night, unable to endure the terror any longer, Lawrence decided to flee, but as soon as he opened the door, the same woman stood before him. Her face was deathly pale, her eyes black as bottomless pits. "You predicted your death," she whispered. "Now fulfill it." The room plunged into icy darkness. Suddenly, the walls began to close in, and hundreds of dark, spectral hands emerged from the shadows, reaching for him. Lawrence screamed, but his cries were drowned out by deafening laughter. His body was torn apart, every cell racked with an indescribable pain. The legend of Lawrence quickly spread through the town. His shop burned down the same night his body was discovered. People avoided the place, claiming the air still smelled of smoke and voices could be heard. No one dared play with fate again, because fate does not tolerate lies and always collects its debts with interest.